Hey guys, it's Monique. Today I'm going to be showing you how I turn this oversized sweatshirt into this super cute two-piece set. So to get started, you will need an oversized sweatshirt. Mine is a men's XL, scissors, chalk/disappearing ink, measuring tape, sewing pins, thread, your sewing machine, and heavy-duty needles. For the sweatshirt, just use your best judgment about what will be long enough to do this for you. I'm under 5 feet, so this is what worked for me. The first thing you need to do is try on the sweatshirt to see how long it is and where it falls. Next, I'm just measuring where I want to cut for the top, and then I'm going to mark that with my chalk. I'm just going to make 2 dashes, and then I'll mark the rest of it on the floor. This is really important when you're sewing. You want to make sure that you pin the fabric in place before you start to cut, because it could shift and then the whole thing could be messed up. You want to make sure that everything is straight and neat before you start cutting. So now I'm trying it on again to see how I like it, and I decided the arms were a little bit too baggy, so I'm going to resize them. I'm really just eyeballing it. I still want the arms to be a little bit baggy, but just not too baggy, so I just cut off like a couple inches to make them a little shorter to fit my arm length. Now that I've removed the arms, I'm just going to label them left and right so I know which one goes where when I'm ready to put them back on. Using my seam ripper, I'm just going to remove the excess fabric from the top so that I can reattach the sleeves. To reattach the sleeves, the first thing you want to do is turn the shirt inside out so that you have the wrong side facing you. Then you're going to line up the sleeve with the shirt. But first you want to make sure everything is smooth and neat before you attach it. Not gonna lie, I struggled with this just a little bit because this is my first project in a while. So what I did realize is that I need to put the right sides together. The right side is like the side that you see that is like the outside. So I had to turn the sleeve right side out and then put it inside the shirt and line it up that way so that I could sew it correctly. So now I'm just making sure everything's lined up, and then I'm going to pin the fabric together. You will have some excess fabric at the bottom, but I'm just going to sew that little hole at the bottom closed, because what I did was the arm is kind of like tapered. So when I cut off the 2 inches, I'm making it not as wide as it used to be. So I do have that like little bit of a gap that I have to close. I'm switching out my needles for some heavy duty needles, and I'm switching out my thread for some gray thread to match the sweatshirt. I like to use an overlocking stitch for the seams of my projects. My sewing machine is a digital machine and it comes with different options for this, so I just choose it on the screen and everything else is adjusted. And there we have a nice looking seam, no gaps, no holes. Now that that's done, I'm trying on the sweatshirt one last time to see how it fits and to see if I need to make any adjustments. I decided to leave the bottom edge raw. I just liked the look of it. You can totally do like hem the edge or do whatever you want to do to it. This was just my preference. Now moving on to the shorts. I have a ton of fabric left over from what I cut off, and I'm going to be making that into shorts. I personally do not know how to use patterns, so what I do is I take a pair of shorts that I like the fit of and I trace them onto the fabric. It's a lot easier for me, and I know how these shorts are going to fit versus like a pattern. I don't know how it's going to look on me. When you're making shorts, you want to make sure that you trace the front and the back differently. This goes for all pants or shorts or whatever. So you want to fold it first so that the two front sides show, and you lay that down and trace the front. And then you're going to fold it so the two back sides show and lay that down and trace the back. When you're tracing your shorts, you want to make sure you leave room for seam allowance. I chose to leave about 1/4 of an inch based on the material that I'm using. This is pretty stretchy, so I don't need a ton of seam allowance. Now, for this process, the shorts, it is extremely important that you label your pieces. If you don't label it correctly, your shorts could end up so messed up. So I'm making sure I write an F for front on the front pieces, and when I'm done tracing the back, I'm going to write a B for back on the back pieces. Again, before I cut everything out, I'm going to pin the fabric together so it doesn't shift. It's really, really important when you're making pieces like this because one little mistake could mess up the whole thing. And as you can see, I don't have extra fabric. Now I am going to be saving the bottom hem of the sweatshirt for the waistband, so I'm cutting off this excess fabric and I'll show you what I do with that later. The next step in the process is to assemble everything. So you want to make sure this process is very neat. Like you need to make sure all your corners are aligned and everything matches up perfectly before you start the process. So what you're going to do is place the pieces right sides together, and you're going to put the pins on the side that is not completely straight. I don't know how to describe it, but that's the way you can see what I'm doing. I'm putting the pins on the side that's like not straight. Also going to mention that when you're doing this part, the two back sides go together and the two right sides go together, and then you join them together on the straight edges. Now, shorts are not an easy first DIY project. I've made them twice before. The first time completely wrong. The second time it was a better process. But I will say that like the crotch part is the most confusing part to sew because the first time I pinned it, I didn't pin it correctly. I had to look at the other shorts to see what I was doing. So I took those pins out, and you actually want to pin the front to the back. You'll kind of see what I'm doing here. It's like complicated, but if you do it the other way, you literally won't be able to put your legs inside the shorts. You can't really tell, but the front part of the crotch and the back part weren't like the exact same size because of the way I cut it. So I'm just cutting off the excess fabric from the back so that it matches up with the front, and I can sew it together seamlessly. here's my shorts so far, and as you can see, I'm pretty excited about how they're turning out, and I'm just going to try them on to make sure they fit. So this is an important part of the process as well, to try everything on as you're going. As you can see, these were a little bit too big, so I ended up having to take it in. I didn't show this on camera, but basically what I did is kind of guesstimated that I would need to take it in about 4 inches, or I'm sorry, 1.5 inches, 4 inches down. So I put a pin that was 1.5 inches in and 4 inches down, and basically sewed like a diagonal line to take it in. And as you can see, that worked because they look so much better and they fit so much better. Moving on to the waistband, I'm just going to measure my waist. My waist was about 28.5 inches, so I'm going to cut the waistband fabric that I saved to be somewhere between 28 and 29 inches. The first thing you want to do is sew the 2 ends of the waistband together. It's pretty quick and easy, and this just makes it easier to attach it to the shorts. It was difficult for me to show this process on camera, but basically what I did to attach it to the shorts is, so I started it by pinning the seam that I did to match with the seam in the back of the shorts. And then as I was pinning, I have to stretch the waistband because it's obviously smaller than the width of the shorts. And as you're going, you stretch and pin, and then you sew it on. The last step in the process is to hem the bottom edge of the pant legs. So basically what I'm doing is I fold it in once and then fold it in again and then pin it, and do that all the way around and sew that down with a straight stitch. I'm using the straight stitch setting on my machine, but one thing I forgot to do is change the stitch length. The machine automatically selects it, but for this I wanted the shorts to be able to like stretch a little bit, so I couldn't use like the automatically selected stitch length. I ended up changing the length to be 3 from 2.5. Here's my finished product. I really liked it. I thought it was so cute. The fit was great. The shorts ended up being a little bit too big, but I'm okay with that. So that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.